A Chinese-born Canadian tycoon Xiao Jianhua has been sentenced to 13 years in prison, and his company, Tomorrow Group, fined $8 billion for embezzlement and bribery in a case that could involve the upper echelons of the ruling Chinese Communist Party. It brings to an end the long-running saga that began when Mr Xiao was allegedly abducted by Chinese security agents in Hong Kong 5 years ago. There has been no official word about him since then. Canadian diplomats were denied access to the trial as China does not recognize dual citizenship. And further stoking tensions between Ottawa and Beijing, Canadian lawmakers reportedly planning a visit to Taiwan in October. Or they are insisting their trip does not aim to cause problems for either Taipei or Beijing, but is instead about trade, friendship and opportunities. Olivia Xiong joins us live from Beijing. Olivia, the court sentencing comes 5 years after the alleged abduction of the Canadian-Chinese tycoon. Why now? And how do you see this latest development affecting relations between China and Canada?
Well, we have to look at what has transpired since 2017 when Xiao Jianhua was disappeared from his hotel room in Hong Kong until now. And we have seen strained relations between China and Canada. If you recall, there was the arrest of Huawei's chief financial officer, Meng Wanzhou, in Vancouver at the request of the United States. And then we saw China also arrest 2 Canadians here over espionage charges. This was resolved somewhat later last year, with the U.S. dropping these bank fraud charges against Ms. Meng. And then she was released. And then China also subsequently released the 2 Canadians. But tensions have been high nonetheless, and now we are hearing news of that group of Canadian lawmakers who are planning to make a visit to the self-ruled island of Taiwan, which China considers part of its territory. And this will surely antagonize Beijing at a time already when tensions are high over Taiwan. Now, with regard to Xiao's case, now the foreign ministry here in Beijing was asked about consular access that Xiao would be granted as a Canadian, but after Canadian diplomats were not granted access to his trial. But the foreign ministry said that the Chinese law does not recognize dual citizenship, and therefore he is not entitled to such rights. There are also many other layers to this case. We have to know that Xiao and the Tomorrow Group, which he was at the helm of, was one of the targets of China's sweeping crackdown to rein in financial risk and excessive debt in corporates. The court saying that they had severely violated a financial management order and hurt state financial security. And then there's also the other layer of those bribery charges, part of a larger crackdown on corruption under Chinese President Xi Jinping. And we had also seen in the statement that Xiao and his conglomerate are said to have given shares, real estate and cash and other assets to government officials worth around $100 million over 20 years till 2021. And so he's also said to have those close ties with the upper echelons of the Chinese Communist Party. So certainly many layers to this case, not just affecting China-Canada ties, but also domestically, politically as well.
Thanks to Olivia Xiong there reporting live to us from Beijing.